Sports bettors, what's going on? This is ghostpicksats.com and I'm Crypto Chris. We'll get more into that in a second. But before we do, if you haven't already, make sure you head over to manscaped.com. Use the code in the description, GHOST, all capital, for 20% off all their amazing products for all your Manscaped needs. Ladies, make sure you go ahead and buy some for your man if he's not using them yet. Second, I just want to quickly mention that this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, and anything in this video is used for entertainment purposes only. So like I said earlier, I'm Crypto Chris. I'm new to the Ghost Picks ATS family. What I'm going to be doing that's the same as always for Ghost Picks is putting more money in your pocket and adding to that bankroll. What I'm going to be doing that's different is dabbling into the cryptocurrency world and also giving you an education on exactly what the vocabulary in terms of cryptocurrency are, because it can be complex and difficult to understand. Most people have heard of cryptocurrency by now, but they struggle to understand it, and that's okay. That's everybody. It's a very complex network that exists within the tech and digital realm. And so we're gonna break that down for you so you got a really good understanding so you can make those great picks early and see some of those gains like Bitcoin has. So let's get into it. What is crypto? Difficult answer, hard to really put that into a nutshell, but I'm gonna break it down for you. So the first is it's a digital asset. So what it means is it exists digitally across a spectrum of networks and computers. So it's not just stored in one place, it exists amongst a plethora of computers internationally, actually, around the world. And so it's a scarce resource. And so what that means is it has a limited number of coins. And it was actually derived from the idea of gold. And so gold, before we had tech, was something that was just agreed upon, had value. And what gave it some of its value was its scarcity. So it's impossible to just whip it up in your garage. It has to be mined or it has to be found. So it's limited within the understanding that that scarcity provides value. And so it's used cryptocurrency as both a store of value as well as an exchange for goods and services. And so what that means is the store of value is we basically put money in and then it maintains that money for us until we're ready to use it or until we're ready to cash out, as well as rising with maybe inflation or other people that are also doing the same thing, adding that money to that value. What the exchange means is basically an exchange for goods and services from peer to peer. So all peer to peer means is person to person. It can also mean person to company or company to company. So I'm giving my friend money for a ghostpicksats.com, or I'm also buying a hat from ghostpicks.com, or I'm investing in GhostPicks. Those are kind of the three different spectrums in which they exist. The next thing that's really important to know is the two separate differences or major differences between cryptocurrency and regular currency. So regular currency, we have a physical representation. We can touch it, money, coins. Digital cryptocurrency only exists on a digital platform. And so the next thing that's really important, and this is key to what gives it its value, is that regular currency is actually controlled by a centralized authority. So the Federal Reserve for the dollar, they control how much is put into circulation versus a decentralized authority, which is what we see in all cryptocurrencies. And it's actually an amazing feature because one person can't use their agenda or their power to create more and thus inflate the purchasing power of that currency. So because we don't have one person making that decision, it basically protects all of us. And that's what I'm going to get into next. Is one of the biggest value is its security. It's really it's firm, it's locked in, and it's trustworthy. What gives it that security is the blockchain. It enables decentralization through participation of members across a distributed network, so single users or institutions cannot change the record of transactions. And so a record of transactions is simply noted as a ledger. And so a ledger is a really important component because the ledger is basically the proof to all other users that everything that's happening is authentic. So I can go in, I can look at a blockchain or a ledger, and I can see that every transaction that's taking place is basically the ownership of a coin being transferred, and I'm not being put out by double spending or counterfeit coins. And so the data is stored across multiple networks of computers as opposed to a single network, which is what we see within a lot of corporations or something like the Federal Reserve. Blockchain is a distributed ledger of tech. So when you hear blockchain, all that means is a combination of ledgers. So all of those transactions are recorded and they're basically strung along on a digital copy or a digital record of all of those transactions that everybody can go in and see. And so a ledger, one more time, is just a record of transactions that ensures that a coin cannot be double spent or counterfeit. And so there's many different ways to evaluate a cryptocurrency, and I'm going to be going into that basically infinitely, but I'm going to start off with 3 of the most important ways that I evaluate cryptocurrency, and it's basically one of the ways that I'm going to be giving you some of my picks that I think are going to be doing quite well here in the near future. And so those 3 ways are going to be transaction cost, they're going to be transactions processed per second, and then they're going to be privacy. So let's start with transaction cost. So each time I transfer a cryptocurrency, what it's going to do is there's going to be a fee for that transaction, and that's not anything different to what we experience in our everyday life. So in fact, Visa or MasterCard or PayPal, they have fees baked into every transaction as well. And in fact, the Security and Exchange Commissions, when they're rating something like Visa, the transaction cost and transactions per second is something that they evaluate. And so let me give you a couple of quick examples. So we have Bitcoin, right? Everyone's heard of that. So their transaction cost is actually about $10 to $15 per transaction. That's gotten to be pretty high. Ethereum is around $7 to $10 per transaction. We want to see a little bit lower of a transaction cost when we're looking to invest, but that isn't an end-all be-all. There's something like Bitcoin Cash has a much lower transaction cost of $1 to $3, and we're going to get into some that have an immensely lower transaction cost. But it's really important because if you were going to reach into your wallet to buy some bananas at the store and you had 2 credit cards, one was going to cost you $10 to buy those bananas and one was going to cost you 2 cents, pretty obvious which one that you would choose. The next thing is going to be transactions processed per second. That's a really important metric because right now only 1 to 2% of Americans own cryptocurrency. And so as that number sort of balloons to 5%, the transactions processed per second is going to be really important because if that cryptocurrency is really slow, again, if we're reaching into our wallet when we're buying bananas and we know that it's going to take 2 minutes for one credit card to process versus 2 seconds, we're probably going to choose the one that's 2 seconds. And so it's really important to know that those fees are a combination of both the receiver and the sender, so basically the payer and the receiver of payment, and then also mining. And so I want to get into mining just a little bit. What is crypto mining? It's not what most people think of in the term of mining. It's a process in which new coins are entered into circulation critical to the maintenance and development of blockchain ledger. Very powerful computers that are solving complex math equations. So basically what you have is a computer system, and each cryptocurrency has different computers that are allocated to do their mining. We'll get into that in another video. But the mining is essentially a reoccurring action code that is certifying the complex equations needed for the transactions to take place. It's also what maintenance and what the evolution of the cryptocurrency is going to be done on. So the miners are going to be adding new characteristics or new features to the cryptocurrency as they're mining. And so Bitcoin is actually a very electrical intensive mining process. So it takes a lot of electricity to the point where if you were to try to do it at your house, your electricity bill would be far more than the cryptocurrency you were receiving. And so the miners are actually paid in that very specific cryptocurrency. So they provide an incentive for those miners to keep that mining process going, and it's actually called proof of work. And so what it means is we all understand that in the transaction process, that the fees for these miners are going to continue. That way our cryptocurrency can maintain its sort of path towards being speedy and being cheaper. And so the last feature that I use when I'm evaluating a cryptocurrency for today's video is going to be privacy. And so it's really important that we have an open ledger. We want to be able to go in and see that we're not being ripped off, that people are not actually counterfeiting or double spending coins. The issue with that is we don't want to be exposing ourselves for all of our assets. And so the example I want to give you is if I'm trying to get someone to invest in GhostPix ATS, and I give them my wallet address from Bitcoin, they're able to go in and see all the assets that I possess, and that could manipulate their behavior, right? If they know that GhostPix has a lot of Bitcoin, then maybe they're not as likely to invest more in it. And so that's not something that I think is a good thing going forward. And so privacy coins are actually going to enable random addresses. So you're not going to be able to see what I'm holding if I give you my wallet address. And it also keeps outside entities such as the Internal Revenue Service from auditing those blockchains, because their interpretation of those blockchains could be different than the actuality or the reality of that. And so it's really important that privacy is a part of your cryptocurrency going forward. It isn't an end-all be-all, but for me, I'm going to really encourage privacy coins. And so one of the really emerging privacy coins that's really blowing up right now, and I think is going to be a major player going forward, is Pirate Chain. It's got a great marketing strategy. Their breakdown code is ARR, which is R, the sound that a pirate would make. But what that privacy does is it keeps out other people's prying eyes, and it also keeps sort of that cash-like characteristic. So the nice thing about cash is it is actually private. Nobody knows what you're holding, very hard to trace. And so that's what we want to go with going forward when we're talking about cryptocurrencies, is that privacy aspect. And so I'm going to be talking about a lot of different privacy coins going forward, but I just want to mention Pirate Chain right now early, because if you get in now, I really think that going forward it's going to be a 10, 20, 50x within a very short time frame due to a lot of different things, but privacy is one of those. Another thing I'll quickly mention about Pirate Chain, that difficult process is actually what gives you the best chance at making more money going forward, because if you can navigate it early, then that gives you a leg up on everybody else. So we've got all of the characteristics of Pirate Chain that give it the best chance of being one of the most used cryptocurrencies, and you've also got a real asset right here as at GhostFix ATS. We're going to navigate and help you walk through those buying process so you can get in early and you can pad that bankroll. And so like always, guys, good luck, God bless, and grind on. I'll catch you on the next one.